Looking back, I think that they specifically chose me to be a one-trick pony before I even got on the show. I had a very distinct style.
What kind of stuff do you primarily like to do? I guess I like to skew everything a little bit, try to see how far I can bend something before it doesn't look right. I've been doing my own style for about 7 or 8 years now. I haven't done anything but what I do.
You know, I was pretty popular in the tattoo world prior to being on the show. So I think it was like, this guy is one that we need to get on the show because he's going to try to do his style over and over and over. And we already have this thing that we want to essentially tell the world is you can't be an ink master if you can only do one style. So
there's no way you can be ink master with one style. It breaks all definition.
That's my thoughts. I haven't had any of them confirmed, but that's what it felt like after all said and done.
Welcome back, friends. Today we are in Des Moines, Iowa at the Middle of the Map Tattoo Convention with a tattoo visionary. Our guest today was on season 2 and season 7 of Ink Master. His art is unmistakably his own. He's arguably the greatest new school artist on the planet. Welcome to the show, Jesse Smith.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, dude, this is cool. I'm glad that I got to meet you and have pizza yesterday. I walked in and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to know anyone at this pre-party. And there you were hanging out with Clean. You guys just made it through the storm and I had 2 friends already.
Yeah. You interviewed Clean before and you and I've been talking for 2 or 3 years now.
Dude, quite a while. I still need to get a little original painting from you. I messaged you on Instagram probably 2 or 3 years ago being like, dude, I know I can't afford your art, but I really want like a drawing or something at some point.
Yeah.
We'll have to make it happen. So I usually start the show in the same way. In your own words, who are you and what are you passionate about?
Ooh, so I'm an artist through and through. That's the reason why I do everything I do. I think I started tattooing because I loved art, and it was just a fun way to get my art out there. I did graffiti, a bunch of stuff, just art in general, and then I built businesses around that art because I was having problems finding businesses that would support that type of art. So, or those ecosystems, when I first got into the tattoo industry, most of the people that were owning tattoo shops weren't really artists. They were just bikers or, people who were trying to figure out how to run a business that would make them some money. Obviously nowadays it's a little bit different, but back when I got in, there wasn't a lot of people who were running businesses that kind of like had art first and foremost.
Yeah. So art's the passion, but like entrepreneurship is a passion for a lot of people. Have you found over the years, because you have so many, that you have a love of just that side of things as well?
Yeah. I mean, running a business, aside from all the paperwork and the taxes and all that crap, there's a lot of creative aspects, mostly on the marketing side. I always find myself like trying to figure out creative ways of marketing the shop. Then you have your logo and then your brand standards and those types of things. I enjoy all that stuff. The stuff I don't enjoy is all like the managerial stuff, like the kind of like the spine of entrepreneurial.
Yeah, all the administrative things.
Oh my God, I hate all that stuff, man.
How about working with other people? Because artists a lot of times are kind of like lone wolf people. You know what I mean? They like to be in charge of all their own things. And I never enjoyed having employees, not because I didn't like the people, but I didn't like having to manage the people. And you have a whole ton of people that you manage across all your businesses.
Yeah, I mean, that gets tricky. I mean, it goes both ways. It's like when you don't have anybody around you, you're like, man, I wish I had people around me. And then when you got a lot of people around you, you're like, man, I wish I was alone. So, learning to appreciate both of those and realizing that if you had the other one, you'd be wanting what you have. And,
yeah,
I find myself doing that a lot. I'm like, oh man, this particular individual is this, that, or whatever. But if they were the other way, then I probably wouldn't want them in the position that they're in,
For sure. So what are all of the things you currently do, all of your different businesses and stuff?
So right now I've got Loose Screw Tattoo. It's a tattoo shop in Richmond, Virginia. I think we have 12 tattoo artists. And then we have probably like 7 employees or so.
You opened that in what, 2011?
2011. Yep. Yeah. And then I took over the Richmond Convention in 2016. And that's probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. I mean, it's a lot of work. I have a whole new appreciation for people who throw tattoo conventions. Middle of the Map's a great example. I mean, they really put a lot of effort into just making it a really cool, artistic environment,
Yeah, 12 artists to manage at your own tattoo shop's one thing. This is like 150, and then everybody else is involved. So, I mean, there's a ton of people that you have to kind of manage between that, and it's not something I'm envious of at all.
No.
So, yeah, so you got the shop and you got the convention. What other things you got?
So I have a t-shirt line called One Trick Pony Brand, kind of stemmed from the TV show.
When you see a pony do its trick, it's not really that amazing the 20th time he does that one same trick.
And then I have a ink organizational system. So I basically created this ink organizational system. It's called Method Tattoo System. And it's just essentially like a bunch of shelves where you can display your ink. You can put all your stuff up on the wall. Just kind of, it's very modular. So you can kind of just set it up the way that you want.
Make your tattoo station look cool.
Yeah, and organized.
Yeah,
I'm kind of like one of those guys where I want everything to have its place, and
Sure.
I don't want to have to think when I'm setting up. I can just reach. I know it's right there, and then bring it in. So
Yeah, well, and having everything organized and professional looking also adds to the whole perceived value of your art in the first place.
Sure.
When somebody goes into a shop, they're like, oh, this looks nice. This must be worth something. And that's
Yeah.
like a whole long conversation about perceived value. Let's go into a little bit earlier. I don't want to tell like your whole story arc because obviously that's been told many times before.
Yeah.
But I do want to share some stories I haven't heard. What is the earliest piece of art you remember being proud of?
Oof. I don't know. I mean, I got sketchbooks going back. My first sketchbook I have from 1989, and
You still have it?
yeah, I still have it. I think I was like 12 years old, and it's stacked full of sketches. And I assume that the reason why I put those in there is because I liked them. So
Sure.
but yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, I think that for the most part, when I finish stuff, as long as it's better than some of the most of the stuff I did prior, I'm like stoked on it.
Sure.
So it's not so much like the piece as much as it is the achievement above what I've done prior.
Yeah.
So my goal is always to try to outdo what I've done prior. And as I've gotten older, it's gotten a little more difficult, but
Because you're perfect now.
because I'm perfect now. I mean, it's weird because when I was a younger artist, I wasn't producing as much as I'm producing now. It's like the amount of artwork that I'm producing is just like tenfold what I was doing when I was like, doing it for fun, and there was nobody waiting for designs. There was nobody paying for anything. It was just, I was just, bashing out drawings whenever I had time. Then when you become a professional artist, it's like, okay, I have to have this drawing ready by this time for this person. And you're just churning them out like crazy.
So I want to hear a little bit about graffiti. I did graffiti. That's the only thing I've ever been arrested for way
Nice.
back when. And then I got paid by my city to paint underneath a bridge and then won a big award for it in my town. And I was like, yeah,
That's
dude.
a good,
It comes back around. So I
Yeah.
know that you got into graffiti when your dad was stationed in the military, right, over in Germany. And that's
Yep.
like kind of what got you into it. I want to hear your most memorable story of doing graffiti, whether it was one where you guys had to run from the cops or one where something dangerous, maybe almost happened, or what's one memory you got?
Man, I remember when I was out in Germany, I think I was 17 at the time. And I remember we were always looking for places to paint. And there was this really rad bridge, but it was under the Autobahn. So, I mean, you got tons of cars going through there.
Going 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, I mean, and plus, you never know what's going on the Autobahn. But we really wanted to do this bridge, so we kind of like pulled off on the side at this little, like, I don't know, it was like a rest stop-ish type thing. And then we got out of the car and walked down the thing, got to the bridge. And when we got to the bridge, we saw a bunch of cops surrounding my car. And I was like, oh, we better get out of here. So, we started heading back to the car. And then when we got to the car, the cops weren't there anymore. And so when the cops weren't there, we were like, oh, well, let's just go. And then we looked at the bridge, and there was just like flashlights all around the bridge. So they were like onto us somehow. I don't even know how, because it wasn't like we had any sort of routine for painting, or we weren't like, there was no projection on why we would have been there at that specific time. It wasn't, and maybe we were getting followed.
Sure.
It wasn't like we were doing that much where people would have been following us. But anyways, got in the car, started driving, and then, down the road, we ended up getting pulled over. We got all the paint in the back of the trunk and stuff like that. And, cop, this Polizei pulls us over, and they're not known for being friendly, and so we end up getting into the they want to see in the trunk. We open up the trunk. This is before Instagram told us we didn't have to do that, but open up the trunk. They see all the paint, and we're just like, yeah, man, we're going to go. We can paint a mural. Yeah. And of course, there's a language gap there, so it's like they don't understand us. We barely understand them, and the dude's like, I remember he had me up against the car and just kind of like, was like kind of pushing me up against the car, trying to rough me up and get me scared. And I was. I'm 17 years old, and I got these cops like that are being very aggressive towards me. And, I guess they realized they didn't really have anything on us because they didn't catch us doing anything, and they ended up letting us go. But I definitely remember being pretty scared that time.
Did that scare you away from doing graffiti, or were you still right back out after it?
No, never even thought twice about not doing graffiti. It was just like, how can we do it without being stupid,
Sure. When was the first time you actually got caught then? Because I know when I interviewed Clean, he had gotten caught a good number of times. And so it got to a point where he was like, this wouldn't make sense to do anymore because the consequences of getting caught again are just too much.
Yeah, I never got caught. And, there was a few run-ins here and there, but nothing crazy. But I've always been a kind of I don't know. I wasn't as risky as some of the guys I know. I did some billboards over roads and stuff like that. And, those are kind of crazy, but nothing, I was usually pretty smart about it. I always had like somebody looking out for me, or, had a little walkie talkie, and they would just kind of beep it whenever there was a car coming by. But yeah, nothing crazy. I never got busted. The only time I got busted was in high school, and that was like by the high school.
Oh, sure.
Because I was like drawing on the walls in the bathroom, and I remember I used to draw this character over and over, and I drew this character in the bathroom. It was like this big, and then one of my homies came through and like just destroyed the whole stall with his tags and like just did all this huge stuff. And then the principal went to the art teacher and said, "Hey, do you recognize this art?" And because I drew it all the time, she was like, "Yeah, that's Jesse."
What was it?
I can't remember. It was just like a little like face that I used to draw all the time.
A little rabbit or something.
Wasn't a rabbit back then. It was just, I was still trying to figure out what I was drawing. I think there was this artist over there named Can2, and I think I copied like one of his characters and then just tried to make it my own.
Sure.
But the funny part is so, I got called into the principal's office. They had my dad in there, and they were like, did you do this? And I was like, no, I didn't do this. And then my dad was like, can I speak to him alone for a second? She left. He's like, you need to tell her the truth, bro, because he's like, the drawing is exactly the same as the other drawing. He's like, why are you so... He was like, dude, I don't care if you do graffiti, but if you're going to do it, don't be so stupid. And I ended up getting busted and having to like paint all the bathroom stalls for the weekends and stuff like that. But that was the only real time I got busted. And it was all, nothing on my record or anything like that.
Okay, well then fast forward some years and you got into tattooing. You met this dude who had just gotten out of prison, and he taught you how to make a really sketchy little tattoo gun. And during this whole time frame, you're still doing graffiti and doing a lot of art. I heard you mention on another show that at one point, because this was kind of back in the day where people weren't really getting custom tattoos so much, it was like a lot of flash type stuff. Mm-hmm. But your art had already evolved away from being just other people's flash, and you were doing a lot of your own designs.
Yeah.
I heard you say that you were driving up and down the East Coast, like selling your flash. Yeah. I want to hear one story from that, whether it was like a funny one getting kicked out from somewhere, or maybe you learned something from somebody. What's one story from that time frame?
Oh man, there's this guy named Zeke Owens, super OG. He had been tattooing, 45 years by the time I rolled up in his shop. Didn't really know who he was at the time. And it was, what was the place? I can't remember. I think it was like Fort Jackson or something. It was one of these like Marine bases or military bases, and there was like 15 tattoo shops, which back then was like a lot. It was 15 tattoo shops outside the base, all within like a couple miles. So I remember I was like, this is like the gold mine. I'm just like popping off to all these places, and I walk into his shop, and he's got all this like old time flash, like, normal stuff. And my like rabbits with spray can and like just all this. And, I had a colored background, which back then was kind of rare. you know, I wasn't the only one doing it, but there, you know, most of the flash had white backgrounds because color copiers weren't as prevalent as they are now. And so, had the colorful background. And I remember he was like, yeah, I'll buy some. He's like, you know, I'm gonna put it up on the wall to make all the other flash look good. And I remember his wife like looked at him. He had this little Asian wife, and she was just so pissed off at him when he was gonna buy it. It was like $60, you know, like wasn't a lot, but that was one of my memorable stories of selling flash.
Did you ever talk to that guy afterwards?
No, never talked to him.
Found out if anyone got that tattoo or any of those?
You know, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if he would have been capable of doing those tattoos. Like they were. Okay. I mean, I probably couldn't have done them tattoos back then. I mean, I could draw them, but tattooing them was tough. It was like lots of like super fades and, you know, twinkles and whistles and all that stuff. And I brought it in on Photoshop and like tightened it up. I mean, it was a lot of things that, you know, people weren't tattooing back then.
So it really wasn't ideal flash to have in a shop because most of the artists wouldn't be able to do it anyways. So how long were you tattooing before you ended up opening Loose Screw? I'm sure that was like a good chunk of time before you did that, right? And why did you open the shop? Was it just because you want to do something just on your own, or did you have like a group of friends or something at the time that you opened it with?
Yeah, so I think I'd been tattooing for about 14 years at the time. I can't remember specifically. So 14 years-ish, and I had worked in a bunch of shops. And at that time, you know, I was probably super progressive when it came to tattooing. I mean, I had a website, I had a computer, you know, like these are things that other tattoo shops didn't have. And after going to all these tattoo shops, I learned all the things that worked, all the things that didn't work. And I was like, I want to build my own thing. And I ended up opening it up with 3 friends. My buddy Jason Steffen, this guy named Daniel Farron, and this chick named Bex. And you know, it was kind of like our little thing. It was real small. It was like 750 square feet. And you know, over the years, it just was getting. I mean, I got invited to go to Ink Master a year after I opened the shop. So it was basically like when the shop was starting to settle and kind of get its rhythm, then it was like, boom, off to Ink Master. Sure. And then it was just like this freaking, you know, crazy ride past that point. You know, it's like the amount of attention that we were getting, and there were so many people coming through the door. And then of course you need to build your staff. You need to get more artists to do more tattoos because there's just so many people coming through trying to get tattooed, and you can't get them all. And people are walking away pissed off, and you know.
Yeah, but I mean, artists all of a sudden are getting that secondary fame of like, everyone wants to come and get a tattoo by you, but your books are like pretty full, right? So then they end up getting a lot of clients because these clients can't get on your schedule, which we'll get to the Ink Master stuff. But before that, do you remember the first time that you got in a magazine? I know that, like, again, when I talked to Clean, he said he was just making sure that he was documenting all of his tattoos, taking pictures, and just once a month, like, scanning all of them and sending them to the different magazines. And at the time, the magazines really weren't getting that many people submitting stuff. So like that puts you at a pretty significant advantage as far as like getting a feature. Do you remember the first time you got one?
So my first feature was in 2005. You know, Clean's been tattooing a little bit longer than I have. And I don't know, he's talking about scanning pictures. We had to actually send the photos, like a chunk of photos with our name and our website and all this stuff written on the back, and we had to shoot it off. And I remember, you know, it would take us hours. We're making these stacks and we're sending them off all the magazines. And it took a while. You know, I'd send a bunch off the magazines and they never, you know, saw the day of light. And the photos were horrible. You know, it's like back before digital cameras. So you're taking 20 photos of a tattoo hoping one comes out. You know, and maybe your photography was decent, but then the person who developed the photo was horrible, so your colors are all jacked up and everything. So it was tough back then. I mean, there was tattoos that I loved that never saw the day of light because, you know, the photos didn't turn out. So
sure. Did you keep that first article that you were in, and was it like a little interview where there was like a feature of you, or just like one random little photo that you had credit underneath?
That was the first feature I got. I mean, I had photos in magazines prior to that, like, you know, just stuff that was taken at a convention or those things. And of course, when they first started happening, they were a big deal to me. I'm like, look, I'm in the magazine. It was big, but the 2005 article was like legit. You know, like you think about back in the days, magazines are coming out with 12 magazines throughout the year. Within each magazine, there would be like 3 features, 3 featured artists. So you're looking at 36 artists being presented throughout the year with one magazine. And there might have been 3 or 4 magazines back then. So if you think about it, they're only presenting, maybe 150 artists in the entire world throughout the year. So getting in there was like a huge deal because they weren't, you were one of a couple hundred artists in the entire world that got featured. And a lot of the times you get featured in this magazine's paying attention to this magazine. So then they want to feature that person. So a lot of these people were getting featured in all the magazines. And so it was like, it might've been maybe 100 people, that were actually getting blessed by the magazines back then. So
did your rate and everything go up kind of immediately after something like that? Like when you get that 2005 article, was it something that like you cut up, frame it, and now people are like, oh, you're this guy, so my rate goes up $50 an hour or whatever?
I've never been that guy. It's always like a feeling, where it's like, all right, I'm getting a lot of attention right now, and there's all these amazing tattoos I want to get to that I can't get to because there's just a bunch of them. So, raising your rate kind of filters some of them out, right. Gets the less serious people out. But yeah, I mean, I remember when I got that 2005 article, I was like, all right, man, I'm about to buy my mansion. I'm gonna, get my
famous.
I'm famous. And you didn't feel anything because there was no way to really document the attention that you were getting.
Yeah, you didn't get 10,000 followers that month.
No, yeah, it wasn't that type of thing. You would get emails, and I remember I'd get like 2 or 3 emails a week. But, the other weird thing is back then, not everybody had an email, so not everybody knew how to use emails. Like it was, 2005 doesn't sound that far away, but back then it was, I remember when I first got an email, someone wanted me to send them a file and I had no idea how to do it, so it was kind of based off of emails, kind of, but still, it was never like crazy. I would say that probably the most famous I've ever been, aside from the Ink Master spike, was probably like 2008, 2009. I think I had like 3,000 people on a waiting list. It was like crazy. And that was in it, and it gets you to start thinking about, okay, how do I handle this many people? How do I be fair? And how do I still enjoy what I do? So there's a lot of adjustments that are made. I remember there was a point in time where I was like, I'm going to tattoo every single person on my waiting list in order. Pop, 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 pop. And, the problem with that is there'll be, 5 people before this like neck to knee back piece that want this stuff that's not really you. And then when they get in the chair, they're a pain in the butt and they're just like trying to, think. And I was like, I remember thinking, why did I get into tattooing? And I was like, I got into tattooing because I wanted to do amazing art and I wanted to have fun. And so that's what kind of got me to the point where I was like, all right, now I'm going to kind of pick and choose who I tattoo.
Yeah, but nobody likes being the bad guy, especially if somebody's reaching out and they really want a tattoo from you. It's not fun to be, turn them away. What is the first time that you got to leave the country for a tattoo? Because I know after Ink Master, obviously, but before Ink Master, you had already built up international fame in the tattoo industry.
Yeah.
Did you get invited out to Australia? Did you go out to London? Like, what was the first time that you left the country for tattooing?
I mean, I was, my dad lived in Germany.
Right.
So I probably went over there and tattooed, right when I started tattooing, I would go back and visit my dad and tattoo in Germany.
Sure.
So he was a biker. So we'd go to little biker rallies and tattoo all his homies there. But I would say my first like real international travel was probably to China in like 2005. And I think it was the first tattoo convention that I did in Beijing. And that was pretty crazy. I mean, we were essentially tattooing in a warehouse, no air condition. It was hot. There was like every photo we took, there's like dust falling. You could see
sweatshop.
It was crazy. I mean, but it was one of the most entertaining conventions I'd ever been to. I mean, they had like the stage just constantly had stuff going on. They had like that Chinese dragon that there's like multiple people in. They did that thing. They did they had like these Shaolin monks or whatever, shooting, like throwing needles through glass. Like, I mean, it was insane. It was so cool. And they had me right up at the beginning of the stage. It was crazy. And it was so dirty. Like, no, they didn't know anything about cross contamination. So they're like sitting there, smoking cigarettes while they're tattooing, like blood and ink on their gloves, smoking cigarettes. And I remember I was like tattooing, and they only had one table, and it was the front table. So you had to lay your machine on the front table to tattoo. And I remember I was tattooing, put the machine down, I was wiping someone down, I looked back, and there's like this random person holding my machine, like looking at it, with ink and blood all over it. It was pretty crazy. But it was fun. Got to see the Great Wall of China while I was out there. That was amazing.
Yeah, China's been like the highest on my list for countries that I haven't been to for a good while now. Japan was the first time I left the country. Yeah. It was like still my favorite place that I've been to. China's the next one on the list, just because I love the like history behind it.
Yeah.
Like they have buildings that are 1,000+ years old and structures like way older than that you're like, they preserved these things.
Tens of thousands of years.
Yeah, it's wild. We will get to this Ink Master stuff in just a second. One thing that people see on Ink Master all the time are clients being a pain in the ass, and I know it's like the producers and stuff pushing them. But outside of Ink Master, what are 3 things people can do to be a perfect client for their artist?
Oh man, I think, the biggest one is just trusting your artist. You pick that artist for a reason. I would assume most people do. Find an artist who jives with you artistically, and then just let them do their thing. Give them a little bit. I want a flower. I want a monkey, whatever it is, and just let them do their thing. You're going to get your best tattoo that way. I always tell lots of tattoo artists, specifically at my shop, they're like, nobody lets me do what I want. And I'm like, in the end, you know more about art and tattooing than 99% of the people that come through that door. So it's your job to guide them in the direction that's going to be best suited for them, their body, how it's going to fit, aesthetically. They chose you for a reason. So, but yeah, being a relatively loose canvas, kind of letting up a little bit of control. And I get it, man. When I go places, I kind of want to have a little control over the process of what I receive for my money, and stuff like that. So I get that. But if you can loosen up a little bit, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at what you receive. But once again, pick the right artist. Yeah. Pick the right artist. You're not going to have to worry about it.
Artists need to go through a seminar of just interpersonal communication.
Yeah. That's
just
the
to
big
learn
one.
how to like sell themselves to the client and build that trust with them, because somebody, and we won't go down a whole road about this, but I was in sales forever. You can have somebody spend more money on less and be happier than somebody else just based on like the experience that you give them.
It's crazy. Dude, I have one of my really good friends, I watch him talk people out the door. It's like it's crazy. They'll be like, I want this. And he's like, oh, I don't think that'll work. And they'll be like, I want this. And I don't think that'll work. And I don't know if I'm the right artist. It's just like all this stuff. And it's like, dude, I always try to do this judo thing. It's like, you tell me what you want. No matter what you say, I'm like, wow, that's cool. And then I'm going to like try to slide it in another direction.
What if we do this?
Right.
That would be cool too, right?
Yeah. And, and every idea inspires more. It can inspire a better idea. And a lot of times when people don't really think about what they want, they see something that's really cool and they haven't really like sat down and done research and looked at everything and then looked at all the artists and then, try to think of their concept. And they don't really do that. So, it's our job in the consultation process to pull that out of them.
Yeah.
Present other things, present other tattoos. We see we see all the tattoos all the time, the stuff that everybody gets all the time. I feel like it's our job to say, okay, you want your pocket watch and your map in the background and your whatever, ship or whatever, the things that you're seeing that are like really popular at the time. You're like, okay, why are you getting tattooed? You want to stand out a little bit. You want to look a little different. So let's see if we could take that and bend it in a different direction. What does this mean to you? Why are you getting it? What is it about my work that you like that's led you here to get this pocket watch and this ship from me? How can we make it a little bit different? So, yeah, you're right. The talking is really important.
Okay. Well, let's talk the Ink Master stuff. So like you said, you had just opened your shop. A year goes by fast in that first year of opening your shop.
Yeah.
So I am going to say that you just opened your shop. And I heard the story that you got a phone call at the shop. Somebody else answered it and said, hey, Jesse, Ink Master's on the phone.
Yep.
Take me from there. What did they say? What did you think? How long was it, of an audition process? Was it something that you had the conversation and then you had to have auditions from there before you were on? Or was it like, please, please, please come on, you're locked in? Like, what was the situation?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because the producer hit me up. Now that I know who she is, it makes a lot of sense, but I didn't really understand what was happening. It really caught me off guard. And, keep in mind, to paint the picture, back then, reality TV was like, it was like, it was Bret Michaels, A Rock of Love. It was Flavor Flav show. I can't remember, but it was all this reality shit, and it was the same thing. They'd have like 15 girls and then you kick one off every week. And I was like addicted. I love that stuff. I Love New York was another one. And so I really loved watching those things. The internet wasn't super prevalent back then. Instagram wasn't super prevalent back then. So it was like a different world. So I loved reality TV, and I saw season 1 of Ink Master. And I remember prior to Ink Master coming out, I was like, man, if I was on reality TV, I'd do this, that, or whatever, and blah, blah, blah. And I remember thinking in my head, like, why the would I ever be on reality TV? I was like, if I'm going to be on reality TV, it's going to be doing what I do. And there's no shows out there like that. I'm not going to go on,
Real World.
Yeah, Real World or Rock of Love or whatever, And so anyways, then when Ink Master season 1 came out, I was like, well, man, I'd love to be on this show. Like if I was going to be on a reality TV show, this is the one I would be on. But I was like, I'm not going to like go proactively trying out for the show or do anything like that. And I remember I was tattooing. My buddy Jason answered the phone, and he was like, Ink Master's on the phone. And he knew I liked watching Ink Master. He knew I liked the reality TV, and we would watch it at the shop. Because I think I want to say we were watching it on like, I don't know, spiketv.com or something like that.
Must have just been coming out then, right? Like season 1 when you get asked for season 2, or how long was there between the first 2 seasons?
I mean, in real life, it was probably longer, but when the thing that happens is they record it and then they edit it for like 2 or 3 months,
right,
and then it comes out. So they're done. They're already done editing. They're trying to shoot for season 2 while this one's airing. So it was like, I mean, it might have been a week or 2 after I'd finished watching season 1.
Yeah, cool.
So it was like fresh in my mind.
Yeah.
And so when Jason was like, hey, Ink Master's on the phone, I was like, get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean? Like, cause it was fresh in our mind. It wasn't like, it came out of the blue and everyone around me was getting called and emails. Like this was back when they were like, it was different. After that, they started sending out emails to every tattoo artist. We're like, yeah, let's increase the pool of options, But I looking back, I think that they specifically chose me to be a one-trick pony before I even got on the show. I had a very distinct style.
What kind of stuff do you primarily like to do?
I guess I like to skew everything a little bit, try to see how far I can bend something before it doesn't look right. I've been doing my own style for about 7 or 8 years now. I haven't done anything but what I do.
I was pretty popular in the tattoo world prior to being on the show. So I think it was like, this guy is one that we need to get on the show because he's going to try to do his style over and over and over. And we already have this thing that we want to essentially tell the world is you can't be an Ink Master if you can only do one style. So
there's no way you can be Ink Master with one style. It breaks all definition.
That's my thoughts. I haven't had any of them confirmed, but that's what it felt like after all said and done. But yeah, they call me up, say, hey, do you want to be on Ink Master? And this producer, she was pretty tough. I mean, she was just like, yeah, I need to know, ASAP. And I was like, oh man, I need to think about it. I was really worried back then. I mean, the industry was 100% against TV tattooers, 100%. I mean, now it kind of goes both ways. There's people that still hate it, but I think most people in the industry know someone who's been on TV and they're like, well, they're not that bad, or whatever.
Well, and they see how it affects somebody's career, and like, you got to make money, dude. You got to build your career how you can make it to a certain degree, obviously, but like, yeah, I mean, it was the same thing with skateboarding, right? Yeah. It was like when Street League and X Games and stuff, it was like everyone talked about Ryan Sheckler, versus everyone's a Nyjah Houston fan now, because things have just changed.
Yeah, well, and the other thing is the old guard, they're there with you, your peers and all that stuff. That we're all like in the trenches together tattooing, and then all of a sudden one person shoots through the roof because they were on TV, and it's like, man, then that makes you feel not good about yourself when someone's going. So someone who even maybe has less time in, or you feel like maybe is less talented or whatever, as soon as they shoot through the roof, you're like, you start getting a little bitter about it. And so I think that's kind of what happened initially. with me being on the show. It's like there was a bunch of bitter artists out there about, oh man, well, I'm better than him, but he's more famous than me. And, you know, I feel like that kind of happens, and that creates a lot of resentment. But now, you know, everybody's been on TV, and the pool of talent that's been on the TV is insane.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I mean, I think the last season of Ink Master, every single one of those artists was awesome. You know, when I got on, there was like, you know, there was definitely some characters on there. I was just like, dude, what the
Dude, me and my girlfriend, we were watching it. I've already seen all of the seasons, but like ahead of this interview, and I'm going to interview Gian and maybe DJ and stuff. So I was like rewatching some stuff, right? And so I was like, which season do you want to watch? And she's like, well, which ones are the options of like the people that you're going to be interviewing? And I gave her the options. She's like, well, let's start the earliest. Let's go season 2. And I was like, oh man, okay. And so we're watching it, and she's like, these aren't that great. A lot of them, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, let's watch a little bit of season I think it was 14 that DJ came back on, that Gian was on as well. So I put that on, and she's like, oh my God,
yeah,
every single tattoo is really good. And I'm like, I know, things have definitely evolved. Okay, so they did pick you specifically to go on the show and had like an idea for all of that. I know that Ink Master changed a lot over time, like just from what Mark had told me versus things I've heard in other interviews. Like nowadays, everyone has their own hotel room and they're just treated better. It's different. Season 2 was like the beginning of all of the drama and everything. I want to know what the first day was going in there. Did you know that it was going to be a line of beds in the room? Did they like actually like give you a briefing of everything? Did they like throw you in and say, okay, everyone talk right now? Like what happened?
I mean, it was crazy. It was so surreal. I mean, I've always had kind of like anxiety when it comes to being around a lot of people and being on stage and stuff like that. So, you know, the first time I remember I was staying at, what's that? There's that big hotel in New York, one of the more famous ones. Anyways, they had us in there. There was 4 of us. They loaded us up. And they were like, you can't talk, you know, and we didn't know who these people were. I think I was in the truck with Tattoo Baby, and I knew who she was. There was 4 of us. We get loaded up. I don't know who these people are. We're not allowed to talk. So we're just like sitting there quiet. They called it hard ice is what they called it. So anytime you're on hard ice, you cannot talk. If you get caught talking, they yell at you. And so anyways, there's 4 of us in there. We don't know what's going on, you know, and all of a sudden we show up at this parking lot, and there's 3 other SUVs, black SUVs, and there's 4 people in each of those. So there's 16 people total, and we all get out. There's rigs, there's like, I don't know, probably 50 people out there, you know, that are doing whatever. I don't know what they're doing. Some's holding mics and people are writing stuff down.
The production team.
Yeah, it's insane.
Wow.
You're in front of like, you know, besides the 16 tattoo artists that you're on there with, there's like a whole production team. It was insane. I'd never seen anything like this in my life. And cameramen and all this stuff. It was nuts. And so we're just sitting there, and we're supposed to walk up, and, you know, just, they don't give us any sort of guidance or anything. You just walk up. They want you to hang out in this crowd of people, and you're meeting everybody. You're like, yo, what's up? Meanwhile, you got just adrenaline flowing through your body. You're like, what the am I doing? This is nuts. And then finally they say, all right, guys, like, you know, line up here. And then Dave Navarro and Chris and Oliver come out.
What's up, guys? Welcome to New York City. Yeah.
You're just like, what am I doing? You know, like I remember just being like, what the is going on? Then they tell us we're going to be tattooing in the morgue.
According to legend, some early tattoo artists would sneak into morgues to practice their art on corpses.
And, you know, we're all thinking we're going to tattoo dead people. And I'm just like, dude, what the?
So that moment on camera, that actually was when you saw everyone for the first time?
Yeah.
It was right there?
Yeah. I mean, the goal, as far as I understand with Ink Master, is to get real reactions.
Yeah.
So they create these situations that will stimulate real reactions. And then they essentially, it's like an artist who's painting from reference. It's like, you know, they want to create reality, and then they edit it down into the story that they want to create,
right,
and they figure out a way to tell it. So,
sure.
But most of the stuff on the show is, you know, we'll just say real reactions. But then you get someone like Clean who's stimulating the reactions in everyone. I mean, I remember being on the season with Clean, season 7, and he just started fighting with me randomly, and I'm like, what the fuck? is going on here? Like, why are you coming at me, dude? But yeah, it was, it was crazy. And I remember the first time they had reality. They call it reality. It's where they put everybody on the couch and they let them talk, and hopefully they'll fight. I remember nobody knew what to do. It was like there are 16 people in this room sitting on the couch, and everyone is fighting for attention. They're all just like, bah, 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 yelling. The cameras are moving around. The producers are moving around. And I just remember being like, what the is going on? Because nobody was really being themselves. They're all on camera. They're most of them on camera for the first time ever. And it was just so weird. And, after time went on, people loosened up. The producers realized they had to like take like 3 or 4 of them and put them in a room and have a little reality session with them instead of having everyone in the room vying for attention. But yeah, season 2 to season 7 was just night and day. Season 2, they were obviously trying to figure things out. They had, a lot more money than season 1, I assume, because the production was through the roof. I mean, they just had all these like epic things that were happening. But yeah, man, it was awesome. I mean, in the end, I learned a ton about myself. I learned all my strengths. I learned all my weaknesses. I learned who I am in front of a camera, and, how to try to still be myself even when you're acting, so it was a lot of weird stuff. But it's always all a learning experience.
Oh, absolutely. Especially being on TV where you're like, okay, there's this production team, there's all these artists, and some very large number of people watching at a later date. I don't know how many people, but a lot of people. And then, of course, later on, you find out it's a lot more people than you initially thought. That
crazy.
Large number becomes an international large number because it just
crazy.
keeps going, and it never really ends. Like I said, I was just watching season 2 with my girlfriend who didn't know who you were. Now she knows who you are. Like, there's still people today that are currently finding it on Paramount and all that stuff. So
on that note, real quick, the interesting thing was as season 2 came out, there was this huge explosion of interest in me, and like I'm getting recognized on the streets, and then it kind of slowly dies down, and then all of a sudden they start showing it in Australia. Bing! Australia pops up and they're like, hey, you want to come to Australia? You go to Australia, and it's like you're a celebrity again, and all that stuff's happening. Then over time, all that kind of dies down. You can walk on the streets without getting attacked, and then all of a sudden they throw it on Netflix, and then it's just like bam. And I didn't even know, like when they threw it on Netflix, I didn't even know. I was like just living my best life, and all of a sudden I'm getting people being like, yo, what's up, man? I just saw you on TV. And I'm like, oh yeah, maybe they watched it on Spike or whatever. And then, yo, what's up, man? I just saw you on TV. I'm like, what is going on here? Like, people, and some people act crazy when they see you, Sure. Like I remember I was like eating in a restaurant, and some dude was like, oh my God, it's you. And he's like yelling in the restaurant. There's all these other people, and I'm just sitting there eating, and I'm looking, and I'm like, hey, what's up, man? And he's like, oh my God, bro, dude. And he's like having a conversation with me, and there's like 2 other tables in between us, and I'm just like really uncomfortable, but of course you don't want to be a jerk.
Yeah.
But then of course when he notices you, then everybody else is like, who is that guy? And they're like taking pictures, and it gets crazy.
Yeah. Well, now that there's been so many artists that are on the show, and it's been a little while, you still get recognized. Like we were at that pre-party thing yesterday, and somebody's like, dude, can I please get a picture? And clearly they were like a little nervous about asking. So I'm sure like it still happens, but it's no longer like oh my God, I've never seen someone who's been on TV before.
Sure.
Even just at this convention, I don't know how many people from Ink Master are here, but a good number of people. So what was of all, I think my favorite part probably from the TV show are all the flash challenges. Just because those are things that I would love to try to do at some point, like I was watching the one where it was like all the different panes of glass or whatever, and they were painting, like Gian and them were painting, to show depth. Well, the average artist, like I'm not going to buy those materials and put time into that because you would never be able to display it. It's like, it's a kind of art you would never realistically do.
Yeah.
But I'm not a great artist, but I'm an artist, and I would love to do that. It just would be super fun, and you guys get to do a lot of those. Which one is your favorite flash challenge of all the ones that you got to do?
Man, the one that pops off the top of my head real quick is the massive scratch board that I did with Tattoo Baby.
Yeah, that was sick. Dude. Yeah, how you got the glossy eyes was like
that nuts. Was so fun, man. It was so fun. It was just, you're working so big. And, Tattoo Baby and I had actually done a collaboration the night prior that was similar to that. So we already had it in our brains. Like we were like, yeah, let's just do kind of what we did last night. But it went great. Yeah, I remember Tattoo Baby. She started, so I'm doing all the lights where the lights come from. So I'm like shaving away the light sources, and she was shaving away the shadows. And so, our characters were interacting. And I remember when we got to like the part where we were getting close to each other, her shadows were meeting up with my lights. And I remember having like this streak of like anxiety in my brain. And I was like, I can't say anything to her because the cameras are on you, your mics are on, everything. It's like, I can't say anything. I don't want to bring any attention to this. And so, we go back and we get judged. We end up winning, which was cool.
Baby and Jesse. It's a real nice blend of both your styles.
It seems like you guys had good teamwork and a good concept.
The winner of the Flash Challenge is Jesse and Tattoo Baby.
But, and then later I was like, baby, what the hell? You shading all the shadows? And she was like, oh, sorry. But I love that one. That was super cool.
It really is impressive though, like how obviously there are ones that don't turn out, but generally speaking, like the level, and not just from you, but from everyone on the show, it's pretty wild how good a lot of these pieces of art come out when it's things that people have never used before. Like they literally have no experience doing it, and it turns out pretty cool the first try. What was your least favorite Flash challenge?
Oh man, let me think. Oh, I know exactly what it was. It was the one where we were having to Dremel the butts of the shotguns.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. And that was before I learned how to play the game. This dude came up and he's like, I want a picture of my pit bull, and I'm shooting this, bird out of the sky, and there are all these things that I don't even know what they look like. You know what I mean? Like I know what a pit bull looks like kinda, but I've never drawn a pit bull before. And I'm like trying to like draw this pit bull out of my head with a Dremel on the stock of this, gun. And then the guy's trying to describe how his pit bull looks because it has to look like his pit bull. And, he's talking about shooting the specific gun and then the specific bird. And I'm just like trying to do this full on scene.
Jesse, I actually think that dog came together really good. But as far as detail goes.
And I remember Steve, he was like bullying all of his clients. He was like, yeah, we're not doing that. This is a TV show. I'm trying to look good. I'm doing an eagle. And I was like, and after I saw him do that, I was like, oh, I need to start doing that. Like I'm not trying to please these guys. In the end, this isn't their gun stock. This isn't their thing. I mean, as far as I know, they probably didn't even get to take them home. Like Ink Master probably owns them. So I was like, from this point on, like I realized this is a TV show. These people aren't invested in this at all, not as much as I am.
Yeah.
So I need to make sure that I'm producing the artwork that I want to produce, that I feel like I could put my name on.
Just like on Dave Navarro's supposed guitars.
For today's Flash Challenge, you must customize a guitar. And not any guitar. One of my guitars.
When I'm that's like a model of your guitar. You don't have 10 or whatever of that same guitar laying around that you want painted.
And they try to act like they were all angry and we ruined the guitars and all this. I'm just like, get the out of here, Dave. Like,
do not cup one of my guitars.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. So as far as like there's a lot of really fake and created drama, what was the like craziest drama that was actually real?
I mean, the craziest drama with me was probably Christian with the, the dude with the tribal on his cheeks.
When you were like, I put my heart and soul into my tattoos. You don't.
You're a one-trick pony, and your one trick is boring. Like your tattoos, there's no life behind them. There's no energy. There's no soul.
It got a little heated.
Yeah, I mean, he was really good. I mean, who knows how much was acting and how much was real, but Christian was really good at like getting under your skin.
Yeah.
I mean, he would say stuff and you're just like, are you kidding me, man? Like, get the out of here.
Well, then you should have nutted up and said so. When you were telling me, I told you to get the out of my way because I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, because you're...
So that was probably the realest. And then Clean was probably the second, like Clean, the thing that happens on that show is people like Clean and Christian, they're playing the game. They know that in order for the show to work, there has to be drama. People, they could say all day long that all I care about is the tattoos. In the end, the drama is what people want to see. They want to see people fighting. They, of course the TVs are the tattoos are kind of like a supplement there, but they want to see the friction, you know, they want to see someone crying. They want to see people fighting. They want to see people stressed out. Like that creates that tension. It's contrast. It's like what you do in art, you know, you want to create that tension in your work. But yeah, those guys were really good at like kind of creating like kind of fake drama, but the fake drama always turns into real drama eventually, because in order to create the fake drama and get real reactions, you have to say things that are real. Yeah. And so, you know, Christian and Clean would come at you and be like, yeah, your tattoo, you walk around here thinking you're hot, but your tattoo, we saw that blah, 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 and they're coming at you. And this is happening over and over. They're not even showing half of this stuff on TV. And eventually they're just like, those mother. And then you start thinking about things to say about them, and oh, we're just making TV. But I remember when I came at Christian that one time, he was so mad afterwards, and he was like not interested in making TV for that scenario.
How long does it take after that for you guys all to become friends again? Is it immediate that everyone just knows, okay, this is over, now we're back to all being friends? Or do you have to like send a few messages and be like, hey, I do still feel bad about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think with Christian specifically, I remember for whatever reason we were going back to shoot an episode of Redemption or something like that. And I was like, we were at the hotel and I was eating at the restaurant, and I saw him come in. He looks at me and he goes straight to the bar. And, you know, and I'm like, and I text him, I'm like, come over here and have breakfast with me, man. Like, we just went through war together. I'm like, the least you could do is have breakfast. And he came over and we had breakfast, and, you know, just slowly you're doing all the viewing parties and you're having to like do all these things. And yeah, it's just like we were on TV. It was crazy. And, you know, it wasn't real life. You know what I mean? Like, and you get over it. You realize even the person you may like the least on that show shares a moment with you that no one in the entire world can understand, you know? Yeah. And so it's, you're, whether you want to be or not, you're connected to those people forever.
Yeah, no, I mean, that makes a ton of sense. What is your favorite tattoo you did on either season, and what was your least favorite? I think everyone can guess your least favorite, but I want to hear from you.
I feel like I dropped the ball.
We're judging precision. I gotta say, I don't feel like any of the details in this tattoo are precise.
Yeah, man, I don't know. I think one of my favorites was like the acid-eating anglerfish.
I was happy at the fact that he was open to whatever.
It was a big mess of a cover-up. I think you did a pretty good job masking that.
It was like a cover-up of I think it was like a Dallas Cowboys star, and like it was like a three-eyed fish, and it had a little acorn dangling in front of it, and like every eye was different colors, and there was like a little piece in there that I struggled to cover up, and so I made it into like a little hit of acid so you can see it on his tongue. It was just something that was just like sticking out too much, so I was like, let me turn that into something so it's not like looking like a cover up. I was really happy with that one, and it was so hard because it was such a tight space. You know, he had the Dallas Cowboys symbol like right in the middle of his forearm, and it was full on like solid. So it was like trying to cover that up was tough. And then with the forearm, you don't have any space on the sides. So you can't like make it real dark right there and then put some light on the sides to counterbalance it. So I had to go vertical with it. So all the light was up at the top and the bottom, and then the mouth was in the middle to kind of like really cover it up. It was tough. It was a tough one. And it was big. It was huge. You know, It was like in 6 hours. I typically wouldn't attempt to do a tattoo that big in 6 hours in real life, you know. Sure. But it turned out great. The guy was super happy with it. So
yeah, I mean, you did a lot of great tattoos on there, and I think it was really smart of you to show off your work specifically. Like, obviously, people called you out for being a one-trick pony, but realistically, when you're done with the show, you want a tattoo like that. You don't want to be doing a bunch of black and gray portraits after the show. So why focus on trying to show off all that stuff? Like, Clean told me that was a big problem for him afterwards, was people being like, you're the greatest tattooer in the world. Oh my God, you could definitely do this thing. And he's like, I don't want a tattoo like that at all. So I do think it's funny when they call you a one-trick pony, and everyone talks about this online, about how all the judges themselves have specialties as well, because tattoo artists generally are like that. Artists in general are like that. They have specialties. If all of the judges had to go on Ink Master and be contestants, who do you think would make the finale and who would win?
I mean, I hate to say it, but I don't think either one of them would make the finale. You know, like I really don't. I mean, maybe, I don't know. I don't think they would. I mean, I really don't. Like, you know, as much as I respect those guys and I think that they're good artists, Like especially now, I mean, the talent is, I mean, I didn't make it to the finale, but and now it's like the talent is like so awesome that, I mean, I'd be excited to just make it halfway at this point, you know, like.
Yeah. Yeah, I know everything. Like I said, when I rewatched that season 14 or whichever one that was with Gian and DJ, it was like, there's no bad tattoos across this. All of these people are really good. And honestly, like if any of them were on an early season, they probably would have won.
Of course.
It was funny because they bring back all of the, Ink Masters on that season. And it was like, these guys aren't better than like everybody else that's in the competition at this point because everyone's so good.
Yeah.
All right. After Ink Master, like we talked about, all of a sudden, you went from being famous in the tattoo world to being famous just like with the general public. And I don't know what we refer to as famous these days with like TV, what's a D-list, C-list, whatever. But in general, you went to the general public now recognizes you and you're famous. That opens up a ton of doors. We talked off mic about how sometimes at tattoo conventions and stuff, you'll have like really experienced, capable artists that get upset because there's like more famous people who aren't as talented as them, right?
Sure. Yep.
But having fame, like being on TV, having a social media following, makes you a valuable asset to bring you to a convention or bring you to a shop to be like, guess who tattooed here? This person that you're familiar with, regardless of the work. What is the coolest experience that came up because of Ink Master afterwards? Whether it was like getting asked to come to Australia or whatever. What was your favorite one?
I mean, the interesting thing is right when you said that, Australia was just so cool, man. It was, you're getting flown all the way on the other side of the planet and getting put in this nice hotel. And, you're getting to meet people who, I mean, the thing about Australia is when I went over there wasn't a new school artist for thousands of miles. So it was like, not only was I popular because of the TV show, it was like there was no competition. I mean, I remember, I think I had 50 people trying to get tattooed by me in 24 hours after I said that I was going out there.
Wow.
It was insane. And they were all, whatever you want to do. And they're all willing to spend whatever. And I mean, it was crazy. I remember it being a really good experience. And we went out there, we had some friends out there. They were having a wedding around the same time. So we got to do that. We went out to Uluru, which is that big red rock that everybody sees whenever they show Australia. They always show that red rock.
Sure.
So it was fun. It was a whole different world, but the similarities are still there from the U.S.
What's the biggest travel mishap you've ever had? I missed a flight when I was supposed to be flying back from Thailand. I thought it was like PM instead of AM or whatever.
Oh,
straight up just like missed my flight home and was in this Airbnb trying to talk to the host who didn't speak English. And it was like, I'm just stuck in Thailand right now. I got to figure it out. Or I was in Croatia, tried to fly home and at the airport tested positive for COVID.
Oh,
and then got picked up by the Red Cross and thrown into this hotel room that was garbage that I had to stay in for 10 days.
Oh my God.
Gave me warm, like yogurt and hot dogs, like room temperature yogurt and hot dogs was what they served me. Couldn't get me toothpaste for 5 days. Yeah, that was horrible.
Toothpaste is overrated.
Dude. I mean, nobody had to smell my breath, but it was pretty brutal. What's the biggest travel mishap you've had?
I mean, I think I've missed a couple flights here and there, and sometimes like when things got super delayed and I had to be somewhere, I thought I could like figure out take a train and do all this stuff. This was mostly pre-internet, but I remember like being in Europe and trying to get to Germany. I think I came in through London. And I think I don't know if it was a mishap. It was kind of a cool adventure, but I was like, all right, I got to figure out how to get here and, just taking trains and buses and all that stuff. But, and it probably could have got there quicker if I had just waited for the next plane.
Sure.
And, I think the next plane wasn't happening until the next day. And I was like, let me try to get there this way instead. But yeah, I don't know if I've had any horrible mishaps. Not that I can think of.
Well, you're just too organized, so these things don't happen to you. So I know a lot of you guys, like you said, you kind of almost trauma bond with other people that are on the show. And so you become friends. Not only that, but like at tattoo conventions and stuff, all the same people are getting hit up for the same thing. So you end up like seeing each other at a lot of these things. You've been doing a lot of collaborations, which has been really cool to see because your art is so distinct. It's like really obvious it's a collaboration rather than just like one tattoo that both people worked on. Like you could tell it's two different styles. Which one so far has been your favorite tattoo collaboration you've done?
Man, well, I done one of the first I've done tons of collaborations throughout my life. I mean, I was a graffiti artist and graffiti was collaborating most of the time. For me, we would do these big old murals and stuff. So collaborating in the tattoo world was always something I enjoyed doing. And then recently I was like kind of thinking, I'm like, man, I'm feeling a little bored with my work lately. I want to figure out how to shake things up. And it's also like little mini apprenticeships. Like you're learning from each one of these artists. You're absorbing their techniques. You're absorbing their style a little bit. It's like almost like this. I don't know. It's like it's like a little learning by osmosis type situation. But the first one I did was with Ryan Ashley. The first one of this kind of stint that I'm doing was with Ryan Ashley, and it just was like very spontaneous. She was like, "Hey, you want to do a collaboration while you're here?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's do two." And we decided to do two at the same time. And it worked out. It was so smooth. I went in there and I drew my character on there, and she drew her necklace and whatever, all her jewelry and stuff. And we were just drawing on each client, going back and forth, and we were tattooing. And I mean, I loved it. It was such a good experience. Yeah, I don't know, man. There's a lot of good ones. Daria Pirichenko, I don't know how to say her last name.
Sure.
She's amazing. That was a fun one. Christina Taylor, that was a fun one. I really liked Jimmy Schnaz.
That was so sick.
Yeah, that was cool.
I love his art too.
And it's like, and I take these opportunities to try to like flex in different ways depending on what they put out there. So like there's this one, it was like knowing that he's doing super flat stuff. I'm like, okay, let me get some crazy texture in here to just really like, kind of pull it out. But then there was one of the tattoos where I was like, okay, let me try to ooze his style into my style. So there was like this one where I had like this little critter at the top of this kind of like traditional chick's head, and it's like dangling an acorn. And I did everything pretty much flat. And then I just rendered the out of that eyeball, and it was just like opportunities for me to like kind of like try these new things, and for it not to look so weird on my own stuff, where it's like I'm almost trying to mend. Like it goes both ways. One, I'm trying to like look like they work together, but then other times I'm just like, how can I just create so much contrast and tension in this?
Yeah.
I got one with Joshua Bowers this weekend. I'm pretty excited about. Like he does relatively flat work, he's just a very technical artist. And then I've got it's like an alien, and I got this alien coming out of the mouth, and it's like, I'm just going to texture it out of it and just make it look real like detailed and crazy, because I know his stuff is like really smooth and soft.
Sure.
So it's just like trying to create that tension. But I don't know if I answered your question. I really
you
enjoy.
gave a bunch of good ones. I'll have to track them all down on Instagram so I can throw them up on the screen.
They're so fun. I mean, I love them. I mean, I think this year I'll probably end the year with 50, 60 collabos.
Yeah, I mean, if people follow you on Instagram, it has been what you've been posting the majority of the time now for a little while. It's been super fun to see. And doing the raffle thing is a cool, creative way to be able to make your art still affordable for people without having a crazy wait list.
Well, the only one we did a raffle with was with Clean.
Sure.
And that was Clean's idea. So
cool.
And the other thing I try to do when I'm doing these collabos is, for the most part, I'm letting the artists I'm collaborating with kind of run lead on how things are done, because I want them to feel comfortable. I feel very comfortable doing these things.
Sure.
So it's like if they are feeling more comfortable with something, running a raffle, or their approach is having the drawing done way in advance. Some people want to draw the day of, so I'm just kind of like letting them kind of run the lead, just so I can watch how they do. I try to use their machines when I'm doing it, use their needles. But yeah, the reason why we did the raffle is because that's what Clean wanted to do. So I was like, let's do it. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a super cool idea. You mentioned Ryan Ashley, which of everybody who's been on the show, she's the one that I feel like the general public just really attached to. She had a cool story. Her artwork's super unique. She's great on TV.
Yeah. What's
your favorite off-camera moment with Ryan Ashley? Because I know you guys have just been friends. I listened to a podcast, and what's one memory you can share of with her?
I mean, the collaboration to me was just, that's where I connect with artists, is doing art. And so us doing those collaborations was a really like kind of, bonding moment for me, just how smooth it went. There was no egos involved. We were working together to make a really cool piece. She's just a cool chick, man. She's really easy to talk to, and just a loving person, and she cares. And but yeah, that the collaboration was it.
Yeah, super cool. And they're drastically different
Yeah.
styles. So the two of them blended together, not even blended, but you know what I mean, turned out to be really cool. So all your characters, and we don't have a ton of time left, but all your characters live in this fictional world you call Carcayous, which you created quite a while ago at this point. My question is, how do you keep track of all of it? So that way you know that there's continuity. Like people talk about all the time with like the Harry Potter universe, how J.K. Rowling has like all of this huge outline of like, this is why this is.
Yeah.
How do you keep track of all that?
I don't.
So you
I
contradict
don't, man.
yourself a lot?
I've done so well. You know that unfortunately, I would say that I'd love to have more spine behind the actual stories and how everything connects. But up to this point, it's been like, all right, right now I'm doing a lot of this specific character, and then it'll just be like these little side stories of this thing happening, and I'll throw it in this environment and so on and so forth. It's not like a huge everything is connected. It is all connected via Carcayous, the fictitious continent that I created. But it's not like this character connects to this character and this character connects to this character. They're all connected. They're just like kind of like little side stories, little side quests, per se, And some of them are deeper than others. Some of them are just like, this person said they really like this Elefunctafish that I did, so they want something similar. So I'm like, well, let me do the baby version of this Elefunctafish. So these two are connected by this specific character. This is the mom. This is the kid. Someone said, two people say they want a rabbit around the same time. I'm like, dude, I drew this devil rabbit. Let's do this angel rabbit, and they're just arch enemies and whatever. So it's never as deep as I would like it to be. Like if I had an opportunity to just get away, go to an island, no internet, no anything, I would sit down and I would just like pull every character I've ever done, get it all to connect and get it all to work, and essentially turn it into something bigger. But I just haven't gotten there yet. I mean, it's a lot, and I do it backwards too. Like a lot of times, I remember people giving me about it. It's like people will write a story and then they illustrate the characters in the story, whereas I create a character and then I build the story around the character based off of the client, like things that happen. Like let's just say I was tattooing you and your wife came in and she was like causing friction or whatever while we were tattooing you. I'll work that into a story and like kind of like a metaphor. I'll be like, okay, you're sitting on the beach, eating your acorns, and then all of a sudden this velociraptor comes in and starts destroying your collection of acorns or whatever. And so just me and the client know what's going on there, but nobody else does,
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's cool that the client then can walk away and actually know the story behind the whole thing. It like makes it a lot more personal. So you took over the Richmond Tattoo Convention, I guess because you were just a prominent name in Richmond. You just stayed there kind of forever. But you took over that a while ago. What's your favorite story from that convention? Because I know looking at it, you guys bring in like, I don't even know. You have a lot of different performers and stuff, and it's not just tattooing. It's like a whole bunch of different things. So what's one story you can share from that? Whether it was a mishap with something where like when these people were fighting, something actually happened, or maybe it was just a really cool experience with like somebody who was an attendee there, or.
Man, I mean, throwing a convention is insane. It's insane. If you want to do it right, it's so much work. And when I first I was given the convention. I didn't I guess I did take it over, but I was given the convention from a couple guys who were throwing it, and they gave it to me and this guy named Kenny Brown. And when they gave it to us, we were under the impression that they were going to do it with us. And so we were like talking to them, hey guys, we need to start moving on this, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, yeah, we'll get started. They didn't actually like tell us that we were the only ones that were going to be throwing it until like 5 months before the convention. So we were like sitting there thinking, all right, we're going to help support them on their convention. And then all of a sudden it turned into us throwing the convention, and we were trying to find a location. And I mean, we found a location. It took us a couple months. So we had 3 months to throw a tattoo convention, and it was chaos, man. It was like, we didn't know anything about anything really. We didn't know how much things cost. We were just like throwing it at the wall and hoping it stuck. So I would say that that first convention it was so difficult, and it's gotten smoother. It slowly got better. And then 2019, we felt like we had some like traction. We were going, and then boom, 2020, pop, threw us, you know, we had to start completely over. And then, you know, the Richmond didn't open up until 2020, late 2021. So we didn't throw it in 20 or 2021. We were throwing it in 2022. And then in 2022, it was just like, oh, we got to pick everything back up. We had different artists, different employees, different everything. It was like teaching everybody and relearning everything, got it back up on its feet. And then a month before the convention, my partner died in a motorcycle accident. So that was like, you know, pretty traumatic as well. So it's been a roller coaster throwing that convention, but I feel like we've got our stride now. Last year we went really smooth. And this year, you know, we're adding a few new things, but the core is there, you know?
Yeah. The anxiety disappears a little bit once you've been through it and you know, okay, well, these are the potential things that could go wrong. For the most part, there's always going to be small things that pop up, but it's this whole thing of like, until you've done something, you build it up to be a much bigger thing in your mind,
Yeah.
you know, and then you do it and you're like, oh, okay. I mean, it was a lot, but I know what all the things are. So
I
there's
do
a
the
lot less
opposite, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah, like I am so dumb that I go in and I'm like, I'm gonna conquer the world and I'm gonna do this thing, and it's like, whoa, this is a lot more work than I anticipated. Even with my art, like half the art I create, before I get into it, if I had known how long it was gonna take, you know, once I got into it, like I got this project I've been working on for like 10 years now. If I had known it was gonna take that long, I probably would have never started. It was like my ignorance is what got me into it. And I'm like, all right. And then my dad was always one of those people who's like, you start it, you got to finish it. No matter what, you start it, you got to finish it. So I finish everything. You know, there's a few things I don't finish because I'm just like, all right, this isn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I try to finish everything. And so then I'm stuck in this 10-year project. And that 10-year project, I still got more to go on it. So I'm probably looking at 15 years before it's done, you know?
Dude, one day. So that's a piece of advice that your dad gave you that he really pushed. What is one other piece of advice from somebody who gave it to you, and why does it stick with you?
Oh, a piece of advice. I don't know. I mean, most of my advice comes from my dad, you know? It's like, if you're going to start it, finish it, and do it at 100%. Let me think. I don't know, man. I've got so much advice throughout the years, and trying to think of one off the top of my head is difficult. But
Yeah, you could take a second. I'll give you an example. This one wasn't given to me personally, but there's this rapper I like, Cal Scrubby. I don't know if you know who he is.
I don't.
But he has, it's either an intro or an outro to one of his songs. And in it, he's talking and he's just like, I used to think that everyone just knew what they were doing. And then I found out that nobody knows what the they're doing. You just keep doing it.
Yeah.
And then it eventually works.
Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing here.
And then I realized nobody actually knows what the fuck they're doing, but the people that succeed are the people that just keep doing it.
But that's generally what he said. And like that has, as silly as that is, has really stuck with me of like all these people that look all buttoned up, they don't really know any more than I do. Well, maybe in some areas, but generally speaking, they don't know what they're doing. And then another one, just to give you a little bit more time, this other rapper I interviewed, Cashanova, he was just like in an Instagram story. He wasn't even, it's not even a real post or anything. He was just in an Instagram story. And he goes, stop taking advice from people who haven't done what you're trying to do.
Yeah, there you go. That's
and
good.
that really hit me too, where
I
I'm
love
like,
that.
you're right.
Yeah.
Every time I listen to somebody who hasn't accomplished the thing that I'm attempting to accomplish, that's when I end up getting pissed off because I'm like, well, this didn't work. Why did I not just listen to my own gut? Because they don't know what the they're talking about.
For sure. Yeah, I think that's great advice. I love that. Yeah, I think another one that pops off to my head, and it wasn't really advice or anything. It was just something I heard Mike Giant say, and he was saying something along the lines of tattooing to get famous is like eating to take a shit. Like, you know, it's like you get these, and I see it a lot more nowadays. And I think Instagram and the internet is the reason why this is happening. Is like when I was coming up, there wasn't a score. You know, it was like, okay, you get in a magazine and you can consider that 1 point or whatever. Like these are the accolades that you can add. Nowadays, you have a score. You go to Instagram, you see how many followers you have. You're like, oh, this guy's doing good, or this person isn't doing good, or whatever. So what I've noticed is the younger artists or the younger people in general are coming in and they're trying to build their score as quick as possible. And they're willing to do whatever they have to do to get that score as high as possible. You know, it's like I've got this guy that I really love, and he's an amazing kid, but he's like talking about, yeah, I've got to build my brand and I got to do this. And it's like, everything I did wasn't really intentional. It was just like, I'm going to do cool tattoos and I'm going to, there was no brand. It was just, your brand was you. It wasn't curated. You didn't curate this brand. It's like, I'm only going to put this social media post up that has this white outline and has this certain filter on it,
Yeah. But I mean, there's just different pressures to be able to do that nowadays because there are all these stipulations, even like conventions or getting on TV or any of that stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of those people, those producers, the people organizing all these things, the sponsors, even the clients, there's the perceived value of if this person has so many followers and they're not fake, then this person's more valuable to me.
Of course.
So it's just a really important part of a career, having a personal brand that like I have seen other podcasts that are great, but they're not marketed well.
Right.
And so they don't get a lot of viewership and then they fall off.
Yeah.
Right. Versus like, not saying I'm like the hottest in the world, but I intentionally am like, okay, what I really care about is somebody watching this entire thing and taking something away from it going, you know what, f- it, I'm going to quit this job that I hate. I'm going to keep doing this thing. Or maybe they were like about to give up and they listen to this or they watch this and they're like, oh, but I could do this thing that would help with what I'm trying to do. And then it works. Like that's what's important to me.
Yeah.
But what makes this work is when I interview Clean and ask something about Ink Master and it goes viral and then I can pitch to a sponsor that pays me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like you kind of have to be able to play both games. So I know that this question is going to be kind of impossible. So you just have to pick one.
Okay.
What is the most meaningful tattoo that you've ever done? Not just for the client, but for yourself?
I mean, I would say that the tattoo that really was like a big pivot for me was it was a big blue bodysuit that I did on this chick. And it was like, I don't know, 300 and some hour tattoo. And the reason why it was so pivotal is that was the first tattoo where I introduced Carcayous. It was like a point in my career where people were coming in and they were like, I love your stuff. I want a squirrel. And I was doing a lot of squirrels back then, or I want a rabbit or whatever. And it was just like this, I was just doing these tattoos and they would walk out and I'd have a photo and it was all about building my portfolio. And I just started getting real bored with that. And I was like, I want my tattoos to have more depth. I want them to have more lore. That was one thing that Japanese work that I always thought was, that has this lore. This dragon has three claws when it's here, and then it moves to Japan, it gets 4 claws. Well, and I don't really know that stuff that well, but there's a lore behind it. There's depth behind it. There's a reason why these things are happening. And I was like, I want my characters to have a lore. I want them to have depth. And so that big blue bodysuit that I did was the first time that I announced Carkayous. And back then we did blog posts. It was all about blog posts. I think I was on Blogger, and that was my website at the time. And I did a blog post that if you had like had it in reality written out, it would probably be from here to the roof. And it had all the pictures of all the characters on the piece and why they were there and what their superpowers were, and like, who they fought with on her body. Like the whole thing was all like hatched out. And I feel like that piece was like the beginning of kind of like a different wave for me. It was like, all right, now I can draw characters that aren't like stuck in reality per se. Cause it was like, I want a rabbit. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm tired of doing rabbits. I'm tired of doing squirrels. How can I do something else? How do I get a third eye on a rabbit or a squirrel, or it makes sense to the client too? And so anybody who follows Carcayous are just like, this is like the reason why Carcayous is located off the west coast of the Galapagos Islands is because it's a completely different ecosystem. So you're going to see completely different things that may have a foot in reality, but for whatever reason, because of evolution in that specific part of the world that never saw the rest of the world, you're seeing these weird certain characters. So I would say that was definitely like a big, like kind of a big deal for me in my career.
Is there going to be a day when you make I'm a Harry Potter nerd, so I keep giving references, but like they have the Monster Book of Monsters, which actually has it's like the encyclopedia, right? Is there going to be one of those one day?
I sure hope so. And it is a goal of mine. I mean, Carcayous is a lifelong project for me. It's just something that's always being worked on in some sort of fashion. I think it's just, I got to slow down. I got to slow down and make it a priority. And it's like right now tattooing is just like dragging me in all these different directions. I'm a new dad, so I've got the dad thing. I've got the tattoo convention. I've got my tattoo shop. So everything's like kind of pulling me in all these directions, and they're already started. So it's like these big fires will pop up, and I'm like, I got to get this fire taken care of, this fire. And, writing stories for Carcayous and getting that whole world together is kind of falls by the wayside a lot of the times, but it's always happening. And if I live long enough to find a place where money isn't a concern at all, and, my kid is getting all the attention he needs from me and everything's in the right place, it will be something I want to do.
Yeah, let's hope this mold that got into your lungs that's making you cough doesn't have you die super young.
Yeah, right.
How many more years of tattooing you think you got?
Man, I think I can't really imagine. I mean, I've been tattooing longer than I've been not tattooing at this point. I'm 50 years old, and I've been tattooing for almost 30. So I can't imagine my life without it, so I don't think I'm ever going to stop tattooing. I don't know. I can't imagine not doing it. So I will probably always tattoo, how much I tattoo. And if I ever do not tattoo, it'll probably be for a stint of time, and I'll probably get back into it. But as long as people want to get tattooed by me, and as long as people are willing to like allow me to kind of like express my artistic interests on them, I'll continue to tattoo. I mean, I feel very obligated to my clientele. I've got, people who I've been tattooing forever, and they won't get tattooed by anyone else. They're only gonna get tattooed by me. And then there's other people who are like, dude, there's no one that can do what you do, and I only want your stuff. So I feel obligated to nurture them. If one day that there's no one to nurture, then I'll move in a different direction.
Yeah, I mean, just don't be on TV again. And then that'll slowly fade. And 30 years from now, finally, people won't recognize you anymore.
Sure.
Well, especially if you keep using the same photo. At all these conventions, they use a photo where I'm like, that's an old photo. You still look like that, but that's an old photo.
I know. My one of my people was like, dude, we need to get a new photo. And then I had some new photos, but I hate them. I don't know, man. You never look at yourself the way that other people do. So
you want to look younger. So moving forward, what's next? How can people follow you? Because you have a very common name, just like me. So what platforms should they follow you on, and what can they expect for what's next?
I mean, if you put Jesse Smith Tattoos anywhere that you're at, most likely I'll have that locked down. So TikTok's Jesse Smith Tattoos, but I don't do anything on TikTok right now. But eventually I'll get to it. YouTube, Instagram, of course, Facebook, website, Jesse Smith Tattoos everywhere.
How can they support you? Do you have like the clothing on the internet? Like obviously people can get tattooed by you, but that's hard to get to. But for the average person who's watching or listening to this, how can they support you? Yeah,
I mean, I got t-shirts, prints, skateboards, all that stuff on my website, justsmithtattoos.com. I got a tattoo convention that's going to be this October 23rd through the 25th. I'd love people to come to that. I think it's like another it's not like any other tattoo convention out there. It's totally different. So if you're love going to conventions, this is the one you got to go to. My tattoo shop's Loose Screw Tattoo. It's located in Carytown in Richmond, Virginia. So if you're looking to get a cool tattoo, come through there. That's it, man. I got a lot of stuff going on.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of The Passion Pod. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. We'll see you soon.